Breaking, mate. King Charles has just ended the Prime Minister's career with only 26 words. No fancy speech, no flashy interview, not even a royal appearance. Just one carefully penned statement that's now tearing Westminster apart from the inside out. And if you still reckon the British monarchy has no real clout in 2025, what's gone down in the last 72 hours will prove you dead wrong. It all kicked off with a moment no one saw coming. Prime Minister Keir Starmer, clearly rattled and losing his cool, went on a public tirade against King Charles. The exact wording still being debated in UK political circles, but one thing's crystal clear. He crossed the line that every British leader before him has respected for generations. He insulted the crown. And for the first time in modern memory, the king decided he wasn't going to sit quietly and take it. If this story sounds absolutely mental, hit that subscribe button because what happens next will blow your mind. Within 24 hours, something extraordinary went down behind the gates of Buckingham Palace. Late Monday night, King Charles called an emergency meeting, not with the press, not with Parliament, but with his closest circle, the Lord Chamberlain, senior Privy Council members, and top constitutional lawyers. The palace corridors were lit only by the soft glow of the king's private study. And according to one royal insider who spoke under the radar, Charles said words that froze everyone in the room. The Prime Minister has crossed a line no leader should ever cross. The monarchy must defend its dignity and its survival. Those words shot through Whitehall like wildfire. By sunrise Tuesday, Westminster was in absolute meltdown. What the king did next hadn't been done since the abdication crisis of the 1930s. He authorised a full constitutional review, a classified document reportedly codenamed Operation Sovereign Integrity. It details every legal move the Crown can make if a sitting Prime Minister threatens the very institution of monarchy itself. Just think about that. The last time the monarchy took action like this, a king gave up the throne. This time, a king was preparing to defend it. When Downing Street got wind of Operation Sovereign Integrity, the atmosphere inside Starmer's office flipped from disbelief to pure dread. One insider summed it up bluntly. He realised he'd started a fight he can't possibly win, but His Majesty wasn't finished. Early Wednesday morning, sealed letters were hand-delivered to 3 people, the Leader of the Opposition, the Speaker of the House of Commons, and a senior Supreme Court judge. The contents are still top secret, but palace sources say every letter carried one message loud and clear. The Crown will not be disrespected. Not by anyone, not even the Prime Minister. Protect Britain's constitutional balance. That wasn't a polite request. It was a royal warning, written down, stamped and sent with authority. Historic, direct, absolutely unprecedented, and within hours, those letters leaked. The internet went absolutely mental. Hashtags like King Strikes Back and Defend the Crown blew up across Twitter, Insta and TikTok. Clips flooded every feed. People in pubs, on buses, even school teachers recording reactions, all backing King Charles. Suddenly, it wasn't about Starmer's temper anymore. It was about the monarchy reclaiming its authority, and the whole of Britain was glued to the drama. Then came the moment that changed everything. Wednesday afternoon, BBC News cut straight through regular programming with a breaking bulletin. Buckingham Palace was about to release its first official response. Every newsroom across the UK fell silent. Millions stopped mid-cuppa, waiting for the royal word. The king didn't appear on camera, but the statement was short, sharp, and devastating. His Majesty remains committed to the unity and stability of the nation. He holds deep respect for Britain's democratic institutions and expects the same respect to be shown toward the Crown. Kick's words. That's all it took. The palace never mentioned Keir Starmer by name. It didn't need to. The message was clear as daylight. Disrespect the monarchy, and there will be consequences. Within minutes, every major UK news outlet was calling it the most powerful royal intervention in modern history. Political analysts were gobsmacked. Constitutional experts scrambled to explain what it meant. And the public? They were all in. That's when the floodgates burst wide open. Crowds swarmed outside Buckingham Palace, waving flags and chanting, "Stand with the Crown! Defend our king!" By Thursday morning, the crowd had grown so massive that Met Police had to set up barriers. Church bells rang across England, not because anyone ordered it, but as a spontaneous show of unity. From Manchester to Birmingham, even deep inside Labour strongholds, people were fuming at Starmer's arrogance. One taxi driver from Manchester said it best in a street interview that went viral. "You can argue about policies all day, mate, but you don't insult the king. That's not politics. That's betrayal. That clip's now hit over 5 million views because it summed up exactly what the British public were feeling. This wasn't about left or right anymore. It was about respect for an institution that's held the UK together for centuries." Inside Downing Street, Starmer watched his career collapse in real time. Every attempt to spin the story failed. Press officers pushed out half-baked clarifications. None of them stuck. He even tried a sit-down interview to explain himself, but it only made things worse. The more he spoke, the weaker he looked, and while he scrambled, the opposition pounced. Nigel Farage went live on TV Thursday night, calm, controlled, and surgical. "When our institutions are under attack," he said, "silence isn't weakness, it's strength. And the king has shown strength today." The studio crowd erupted in applause. Overnight, Farage's approval rating skyrocketed by 12 points. Reform UK's donation page literally crashed onto the traffic. Even Tory backbenchers started whispering that maybe it was time for a complete political reset. But here's where it went full Shakespearean. Behind closed doors, Starmer's own cabinet turned on him. Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner reportedly stormed out of an emergency meeting Thursday afternoon after a screaming match. She wanted Starmer to apologise publicly. He refused, saying backing down would make him look weak. Witnesses say she stared him dead in the eyes and said, "You've made yourself the enemy of the people, and you're dragging the rest of us down with you." Starmer went pale. Because in that instant he realised this wasn't just a political crisis anymore. It was a battle for legitimacy, and in Britain, no Prime Minister has ever survived a war against the Crown, not in 1936, not now. By Friday morning, the polls told the full story. A YouGov survey revealed that 80% of Brits believed the King did the right thing by responding, and 68% said Keir Starmer was unfit to continue as Prime Minister. The verdict was in. Britain had chosen its side, and this time it stood firmly with King Charles. Another bombshell poll just dropped, and it's absolutely brutal for Labour. Trust in the government has plummeted to its lowest point since they took office. Overnight, Keir Starmer went from national leader to national liability. Junior ministers started bailing, one after another, citing loss of confidence in his leadership. By Friday Arvo, 3 had already resigned. Senior figures in the Cabinet Office quietly began drafting contingency plans for a caretaker government, a phrase Britain hasn't heard in decades. Even civil servants, who are meant to stay neutral, were whispering behind closed doors that Number 10 was spiralling into chaos. Meanwhile, King Charles said absolutely nothing. No statements, no interviews, no subtle digs. His silence became his sharpest weapon. Every single photo of him, calm, composed, dignified, made Starmer look even more desperate by comparison. On Friday, the King attended a charity event in Scotland. All smiles, shaking hands, charming the crowd, and not one mention of the crisis. Commentators started calling it the art of invisible. Dominance. The King was winning. Without even lifting a finger. The international reaction was just as savage. CNN called it the most dramatic royal political showdown since King George III. American pundits couldn't believe what they were seeing. Across Europe, headlines screamed, "The King speaks without speaking," and "Britain's constitutional meltdown." Even Canada's Parliament issued a statement reaffirming its respect for the monarchy. Diplomatic code, sure. But everyone knew what it really meant. Another slap in Starmer's face. By the weekend, Starmer's authority had collapsed completely. Labour MPs were openly whispering about leadership challenges in the corridors of Westminster. Signatures for a vote of no confidence were piling up fast. Angela Rayner, Rachel Reeves, and senior backbenchers were all seen huddled in private rooms, reportedly plotting the transition. The once unstoppable Labour machine had ground to a standstill. Then came the twist no one expected. Monday morning, exactly 1 week since the crisis began, King Charles summoned the Speaker of the House and senior Privy Councillors to Windsor Castle. No cameras, no press, no leaks. Afterwards, the palace released a single chilling line. His Majesty has been apprised of the current situation and remains dedicated to the preservation of constitutional order. That phrase, preservation of constitutional order, sent shockwaves through the UK. Constitutional experts went absolutely spare. That's royal code, the kind of phrase used when monarchs are ready to act. It was a quiet reminder, the king still holds reserve powers. Rarely used, but very real. Analysts speculated that Charles might even dissolve Parliament if the chaos deepened. Others wondered if he'd appoint a caretaker government. Either way, the message was crystal clear. If the government couldn't fix itself, the Crown would. Inside Labour HQ, things turned toxic. Party veterans accused Starmer of dragging Labour into a full-blown identity crisis. Leaked audio from an internal meeting caught MPs shouting at each other. One voice roared, "He's turned Labour into a Republican experiment and we're all paying the price." Another fired back, "We've got to act now before he destroys everything we've built." And through it all, the king stayed silent, dignified, untouchable. While Starmer's empire burned, Charles simply waited. He didn't need to shout. He didn't need to posture. Because in Britain, the crown doesn't argue. It endures. That quiet power was more devastating than any speech Starmer could have given. What we're witnessing isn't just a scandal, it's a constitutional earthquake. For the first time in modern history, the balance of power in Britain has shifted. The monarchy, in which many thought was just ceremonial, just proved it can still move mountains when pushed too far, and the man who thought he could outmatch the crown is now watching everything he built crumble to dust. So, here's the question, what happens next? Will Starmer resign before he's forced out? Can Labour survive this implosion? Or will Reform UK and the Tories split the vote and reshape British politics forever? And most crucially, will King Charles actually use those reserve powers if the government completely collapses? The answers are coming, and they'll reshape Britain for an entire generation. Drop your thoughts below. Do you reckon Starmer's finished, or can he somehow claw his way back? If you're gripped by this royal showdown, hit that subscribe button because this story is far from over. History's being written right now, and you're watching it unfold in real time. Over the next few days, Britain entered uncharted waters. The Prime Minister's office was functioning in name only. Meetings cancelled. Policy briefings delayed. Foreign allies quietly voicing concern over the government's stability. Inside Whitehall, senior civil servants described the mood as numb, as if everyone was just waiting for the inevitable. By midweek, the tension hit breaking point. Cabinet heavyweights, including the Home Secretary and Foreign Secretary, privately admitted they could no longer back Starmer's leadership. Rumours flew that a delegation of senior Labour MPs was preparing to march into Number 10 with an ultimatum: resign. Or face removal through a vote of no confidence. And that evening, cameras caught something no one expected: the Prime Minister's motorcade leaving Downing Street, without warning. The country held its breath. Reporters went absolutely mental, scrambling, guessing, and spinning theories that Starmer might be legging it straight to Buckingham Palace. For nearly an hour, the whole nation held its breath, glued to the telly. When he finally rolled back into Downing Street, the official spin was that he'd just met with senior advisers to discuss the constitutional situation. But insiders, they told a completely different story. Word on the street was that Starmer had requested a private audience with King Charles, and the monarch flat out refused. If that's true, it would mark the first time in modern British history that a reigning monarch declined to meet a sitting Prime Minister. A quiet but brutal signal, a royal withdrawal of confidence from the highest office in the land. By the next morning, the headlines were savage. The King turns away the Prime Minister. Crown freezes out Starmer. The endgame begins. Financial markets wobbled. The pound took a tiny dip, but what really shook Westminster was the mood coming from within Labour itself. Long-time loyalists who defended Starmer through thick and thin started calling for renewal and responsibility. Translation: he's done. The message couldn't be clearer. The party couldn't stand behind him anymore. By Thursday, the Speaker of the House confirmed it. A motion of no confidence had been formally submitted. The debate was set for Monday. The news broke just as crowds outside Buckingham Palace started chanting in unison: "Protect the Crown! Restore the order! The symbolism was electric. The monarchy hadn't just outplayed the government, it had captured the public's heart and imagination. That night, Starmer went live on national television. His face pale, his voice cracking ever so slightly. "Britain is a democracy," he said. "No one, not even the monarchy, is above accountability." It was meant to sound bold. It sounded desperate. Within minutes, commentators were calling it the final misstep of a doomed premiership. The following morning, every newspaper splashed the same headline across the front page: Starmer's last stand. At 10 a.m. sharp on Monday, the House of Commons was rammed. The atmosphere was electric. You could feel the tension through the screen. Speaker Lindsay Hoyle called for order as MPs prepared to deliver their verdict. Even before the vote, everyone knew the score. The numbers just weren't on Starmer's side. When the results finally came in, 347 in favour, 283 against, gasps filled the chamber. That was it. The Prime Minister had lost. The government had fallen. Within the hour, Starmer was spotted leaving number 10 for the last time, resignation letter in hand. Cameras flashed, journos shouted questions, but he said nothing, not a single word. Then, at exactly 2 p.m, Buckingham Palace released a short, perfectly measured statement. His Majesty the King has accepted the resignation of the Prime Minister and will, in due course, invite a Member of Parliament to form a new government in the interest of national stability. No names. No drama, just calm, regal authority. The final act in a week that completely rewrote Britain's political playbook. Outside the palace gates, cheers erupted. Bells rang out across the nation, from London to Liverpool, from Bristol to Birmingham. Commentators called it the week the Crown reminded the nation who it truly serves. In less than 10 days, King Charles hadn't just defended the monarchy, he'd redefined its power in the modern age. And for millions watching across the globe, one question now lingers like smoke over Westminster. Was this a one-off royal flex, or the dawn of a new era where the king no longer stands above politics, but right in the thick of it? Because if this past week has proven anything, it's this. In the battle between the government and the crown, the monarchy still knows exactly when to strike.